You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. The top focus story we're tracking for you this Thursday morning. The government on Wednesday has denounced the unprecedented violence at the farmers' tractor rally. Union Minister Prakash Javadekar has said that India won't tolerate the manner in which the tricolour was insulted at the Red Fort. Mr. Javadekar also pointed fingers at the Congress as well as Rahul Gandhi. And this coming in on a day, remember, when the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party have both targeted the centre over the violence.
जिस तरह से लाल किले पर तिरंगे का अपमान हुआ, वो अपमान हिंदुस्तान सहन नहीं करेगा। कांग्रेस ने लगातार उकसाने का काम किया किसानों के आंदोलन में। पंजाब में उनकी सरकार है। पंजाब से निकलने वाले ट्रैक्टरों पर निगरानी करके जो हैबिचुअल क्रिमिनल्स है उनको प्रिवेंटिव अरेस्ट करनी चाहिए थी। यह अहिंसक मार्च नहीं था, लेकिन कांग्रेस उसको अहिंसक बता रही है। कल दिल्ली पुलिस ने अद्भुत संयम दिखाया। उनके पास शस्त्र थे, लेकिन उन्होंने चलाया नहीं। यह निश्चित रूप से पुलिस की एक प्रशंसनीय काम है।
भाजपा के एजेंट, केंद्र सरकार, मोदी की सरकार की सेंट्रल एजेंसियों के एजेंट स्लीपर सेल में जो काम करते हैं भाजपा के, वो इस आंदोलन में इन्फिल्ट्रेट कर चुके थे, घुस चुके थे और उन लोगों ने इस पूरी वारदात को अंजाम दिया है।
Just look at the background of Deep Sidhu. Here is someone who was Mr. Deol's, BJP's candidate's right-hand man. Here is someone who's been photographed with the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, inside 7 RCR. Here is someone who has photographs with Mr. Amit Shah. Here is someone who 4 months ago was boycotted and pushed out by farmers' unions because of his separatist leanings.
Well, even as the government and the opposition continue to spar over the issue, the Delhi police evaded NDTV's questions on why the actor Deep Sidhu, who can be seen in this video with protesters seemingly atop the ramparts of the Red Fort, is being accused by the farm unions for instigating protests. Remember, action has finally been taken. An FIR has now been filed against Deep Sidhu.
मैंने जब ये आपको बताया है कि हर एक कोई व्यक्ति जिन्होंने इसमें इस जघन्य अपराध में हिस्सा लिया है, उसके खिलाफ कानूनी कार्रवाई की जाएगी और अभी केसेस रजिस्टर हुए हैं। केस के इन्वेस्टिगेशन में कई नाम आएंगे और जिनका भी नाम आएगा उनके खिलाफ जो कठोर कदम हमने ठान ली है वो ली।
Well, the Delhi police on Wednesday issued a notice to farmer leader Darshan Pal over the violence during the farmers' tractor rally on Republic Day, asking why legal action should not be taken against him. Noting that the vandalism at the Red Fort on Republic Day was the most deplorable and anti-national act, the police asked Darshan Pal to submit his response within 3 days. The action comes after the Delhi Police Commissioner S.N. Srivastava alleged that farmer leaders, were involved in the January 26 violence and warned that no one will be spared. Arvind joins us with the very latest. Arvind, what more can you tell us about this notice?
Rishika, the Delhi police has issued a notice to Darshan Pal Singh, who is one of the organizers of the Samyukta Kisan Morcha SKM, under the umbrella under which over 32 farmers' unions have come to protest against these 3 farm laws. So the police has issued a notice to Darshan Pal Singh asking him to give details about the alleged violence that happened on Republic Day. They've also asked the organizer Darshan Pal Singh to give the name of the people from his organization who involved in the violence that took place on January 26. So they have given 3 days time to Darshan Pal Singh to respond to this particular notice, and they have also asked why shouldn't the agency, why shouldn't the Delhi police initiate legal action against his organization also for not sticking to the agreement? Because as per the agreement that was signed between the Delhi police and also the protesting farmers union, that they were supposed to start the march somewhere around 12 noon, and they were supposed to end it by 5 p.m. and only 5,000 tractors were allowed, and they were were also pre-designated routes at that 3 different points. Let it be Singhu, let it be Tikri border, let it be Gazipur. But according to the police officials, that all these 3, none of these 3 important agreements were met by the protesting farmers, and that's why the police has decided to initiate actions against the farmers union also. So they have issued notice to Darshan Pal Singh, who is one of the organizer of the SKM Sanyutta Kisan Morcha, and what we are being told is that the agency will be issuing similar notices to almost all the farmers leaders, asking for their response also. The agency, on the other hand, they have already registered somewhere around more than 25 FIRs, including the main organizers like Darshan Pal Singh and other leaders, and also naming people like Yogendra Yadav and also Medha Patkar also. So the agency has clearly, the Delhi Police Commissioner, while addressing the media yesterday, he has clearly said that no one will be spared, and all the CCTV footages and all the video footages that the Delhi police personnel made during this violence will be used to identify the culprits, and then everyone will be booked and the severe action will be taken against them. So that's the call, that's the message that was given by the Delhi Police Commissioner yesterday. And what we are also learning from our sources is that the Delhi Police has also booked Deep Sidhu along with another person for the alleged violence that happened at Red Fort. So an FIR has been registered at the Kotwali police station for the violence that took place in Red Fort also. So what we are being told is that very soon the agency will be issuing notice to Deep Sidhu also to join the investigation.
All right, appreciate you, Arvind, for joining us with that comprehensive update. So notice has been issued to farmer leader Darshan Pal, and meanwhile an FIR has been registered against Deep Sidhu as well. We'll keep a close watch on all these developments. Remember, the investigation as well as the political blame game now that ensues over January the 26th. Well, on to the other big development that we're tracking. The Uttar Pradesh police has broken up the farmer protest on the highway. The protesters in western Uttar Pradesh's Bagpat have been evicted overnight. Action at the protest site on the Delhi-Saharanpur highway. The Uttar Pradesh government has said that the action was taken after a request from the National Highway Authority of India to facilitate road works. The Uttar Pradesh government says no force was used. Late night visuals, however, do show the cops chasing away protesters.
NHI ने हम लोगों को पत्र लिखा था, क्योंकि NHI के कार्य में बाधा पहुंच रही थी, तो उन लोगों ने पत्र भेज करके रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि हमारे कार्य को पूरा कराया जाए। चूंकि इनका कार्य पूर्ण होने की स्थिति में है, तो उसको पूर्ण कराने के लिए हम लोग आए थे और बहुत शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से ये लोग अपना स्वतः ये लोग चले गए। हम लोग उनके जो सामान थे उनको रख दिए। ये हम लोग जब आए तो 4-5 वृद्ध लोग थे। एक उसमें से मतलब थोड़ा सा उसका वो दिमाग को मतलब कम था। उन लोगों को हम लोगों ने उनके घरों पे भिजवा दिया। किसी भी तरह का कोई भी बल प्रयोग नहीं हुआ।
Alok Pandey joins us with the very latest. Alok, the Uttar Pradesh cops have broken up the farmer protest on the Bagpat highway overnight. They insist no force was used. What are you picking up?
Well, I'm picking up whatever is visible on camera there. And yes, I think there was no lathi charge. I mean, that is visible. But yes, there was a significant presence of cops, Rishika. And you can see that they went inside the tent and they kind of chased away the protesters who were there. This protest has been on National Highway 709B. That's the name of the National Highway. It connects Delhi to Saharanpur and then onwards to Yamunotri. And this protest has been going on at the same location from the 19th of December, we are told. It was going on. And yesterday, of course, the eviction happened. I think the largest story and the more important point to make would also be the timing of the eviction by the UP police, given that this has come just 2 days after what happened in Delhi on Republic Day. And whether this is a signal that more protests, the smaller ones perhaps at least that are taking place in some highways in western UP, will also be broken up, or whether there will be perhaps some more action on the borders of Delhi. I think those are the significant pointers that one can try and infer from what we are seeing on our screen. What has happened is that both carriageways of the National Highway 709B, as I said earlier, have been cleared overnight by the police.
Appreciate you, Alok, for joining us with the very latest. So farmers have been evicted from the Bagpat highway overnight. Those, in fact, are pictures that have come in. The Uttar Pradesh police, however, insist no force was used and that the eviction was indeed peaceful. Now, after the chaos and violence rocked the farmers' tractor rally in the national capital, farmer leader VM Singh of the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee has said that we can't carry forward a protest with someone whose direction is something else. So I wish them all the very best, but VM Singh and the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee are withdrawing away from the protest right away. Farmer leaders have alleged a conspiracy. A section of the farm leaders have blamed Punjabi actor and activist Deep Sidhu for instigating the clashes and planting a Sikh religious flag at the Red Fort. The Sanyukt Kisan Morcha has held a meeting at the Singhu border yesterday afternoon, during which they reiterated the conspiracy angle and distanced themselves from Tuesday's violence. One farmer died on the way to the Red Fort. The post-mortem was conducted in Rampur, and the Uttar Pradesh police have said that the farmer death is not due to the shooting. However, over 300 police personnel, remember, have been injured in the violent clashes that took place. 22 cases so far have been registered by the Delhi police. 6 farmer leaders are among those who have been named in the cases. A case of conspiracy has also been filed. Well, with that, we're slipping into a very short break. The news continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to the big political story we're checking on Good Morning India. Well, it is Maharashtra versus Karnataka. The two states are sparring with each other over land. Now, this is an extremely interesting development that's taken place after a high-level meet to discuss the Maharashtra-Karnataka border issue that was conducted yesterday. Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, Sharad Pawar and top leaders of the Mahavikas Aghadi government in Maharashtra were present at this meeting. Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has said that this matter needs to be taken up aggressively to bring back the Marathi-speaking region of Karnataka into Maharashtra. All parties in the state need to come together and appeal to the centre. This is what Maharashtra has said, and now claims that certain areas including Belgaum, Karwar and Nipani, which are all a part of Karnataka currently, have said that the majority of population in these areas is in fact Marathi speaking, which warrants a case for all of these areas to actually be brought under Maharashtra. Now, the case over the dispute between the two states is pending before the Supreme Court for many years. The reason why this has become a full-blown political battle is because Karnataka has also hit back now. The Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka has hit back and said that in this case, then Mumbai should be made a part of Karnataka. So, this is now a full-blown political war that is in fact taking place. The Belgaum border issue has become the latest standpoint between the Maharashtra government and the Karnataka government after this high-level meeting to discuss the Maharashtra-Karnataka border issue that took place yesterday. Uddhav Thackeray has reiterated that this matter needs to be taken up aggressively, to which the Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister has responded, saying then let's make Mumbai a part of Karnataka.
कोर्टामध्ये हे आहे, कोर्ट तिकडे सगळं बेलगामपणाने चाललेलं आहे. नावाप्रमाणेच बेलगाम केलं ना त्यांनी, बेलगाम वागतंय. महाभाग हा जोपर्यंत त्याचा निकाल लागत नाही तोपर्यंत माझं मत पहिलं आपल्या सरकारकडनं कोर्टात सांगितलं गेलं पाहिजे की हा तातडीने केंद्रशासित करा. इकडे कर्नाटक सरकारची मस्ती चालता कामा नये, अजिबात चालू देणार नाही. म्हणजे असं काही समजू नका की आम्ही नामानिराळे झालो किंवा काहीतरी बोलायचं म्हणून. मी तर म्हणतो की ह्या सरकारने हे सरकार करू शकणार नाही तर कोणीच करू शकणार नाही. या एका जिद्दीने आपण याच्यात आता उतरलं पाहिजे.
Well, joining us on the broadcast, Abhishek Tripathi, leader of the BJP, and Sanjay Gupta, leader of the Shiv Sena. Let's get in a quick comment from both our political guests. Abhishek Tripathi, to you first. This has been a long-standing dispute. It's pending before the Supreme Court. What do you make of what Uddhav Thackeray has said yesterday, that this is a matter now that needs to be pursued aggressively?
See, since the reorganization of states had been done on linguistic grounds, Maharashtra has been claiming the region which have majority Marathi speaking and were part of the Mumbai presidency long back. Okay, so basically on 17th January or sometime around last week, a few Shiv Sainik activists attempted crossing the Maharashtra into Karnataka to reiterate Maharashtra claim over Marathi-speaking Belgaum district. Now, what Uddhav Thackeray, Honorable CM of Maharashtra, has been saying it, and let me say this, very rightly saying this, the issue, the region should come in Maharashtra, and since the matter is already sub judice in the Supreme Court, and I don't think that any government should just go and reclaim and rename the region. I agree to what the CM of Maharashtra says. This matter needs to be pursued aggressively in the court of law, and I think the right decision should be taken at the right time.
And what do you make of the Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister's reaction? He says that if this is the matter that is going to be pursued, then in that case, Mumbai should be brought under Karnataka.
I mean, I don't know why he said that, because it does not make sense.
All right. Let me also get a comment from Sanjay Gupta of the Shiv Sena. Sanjay Gupta, what do you make of this battle between the Maharashtra and the Karnataka governments at the moment?
देखिए, महाराष्ट्र सरकार की जो ये मांग है कि मराठी भाषी जो क्षेत्र है वो महाराष्ट्र तो मिले, ये सन 1947 से ही है, जब से हमारा देश आजाद हुआ। और हमारे जो राज्यों का गठन है वो भाषा के आधार पर ही हुए हैं। जितने भी राज्य हमारे बने हैं, उनका विभाजन होने का, एरिया विभाजन होने का एक ही कारण है कि भाषा के आधार पर, संस्कृति के आधार पर। तो जो क्षेत्र कर्नाटक के अंडर में आते हैं से भी वो सभी मराठी भाषी क्षेत्र हैं। तो इसीलिए उद्धव साहब की मांग है कि वो मराठी भाषी क्षेत्र, क्योंकि वहां पर लोग अपनी बात को भाषा के आधार पर जो विभाजन किया गया था उसका मतलब एक ही था कि ताकि लोग प्रशासन उसकी बात को समझ सके और वो अपनी बात को प्रशासन को कह सके। तो यही दिक्कत आज वहां पर भी है। तो इसी के आधार पर उद्धव साहब ये चाहते हैं, महाराष्ट्र ये चाहता है कि वो क्षेत्र महाराष्ट्र के अंदर आए। और अगर उसके लिए आयोग भी बना, आयोग बनने के बाद फिर जब वो बात वहां नहीं हुई तो उसके बाद फिर ये मैटर सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी गया, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट में मैटर जब लंबित है तो उसके बाद आप उस क्षेत्र के अंदर नाम भी बदल रहे हैं, और एक राजधानी की जगह 2 राजधानी भी बना रहे हैं। तो ये जिस तरह का एक्शन कर्नाटक सरकार ने किया ये ठीक नहीं है, क्योंकि जब मैटर सब जुडिस हो और सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चल रहा तब इस तरह की इंटरफेरेंस नहीं करनी चाहिए। तो इसीलिए उद्धव साहब ने कहा कि जब तक ये फैसला नहीं होता तब तक इसको आप जो है केंद्र शासित प्रदेश बनाए, ताकि इस तरह की बात ना हो।
Sanjay Gupta, the other question जो और दूसरा बड़ा सवाल है is that the Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister has said that अगर ये आपकी मांग है या ये आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी है going forward, then उनकी स्ट्रैटेजी ये रहेगी कि मुंबई को फिर कर्नाटका के अंदर ले आते हैं। But how do you respond to that?
बड़ी अजीब सी बात है कि वो हमारे हिंदुस्तान में कहावत है कि किसी भी बात को कहने के पीछे एक लॉजिक होना चाहिए। इसके पीछे तो कोई लॉजिक ही नहीं है। मतलब आप ये अगर महाराष्ट्र के सीएम इस बात को मांग कर रहे हैं तो उसके पीछे एक लॉजिक है, लेकिन उन्होंने जो बात की उसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं है। कहावत है हमारे हिंदुस्तान में कि कहीं की ईंट कहीं का रोड़ा, धानमती ने कुंभा जोड़ा। तो ये जो बात है ये तो एक अलग एकदम से, मतलब इसको अपनी बस खींच दिखाने के लिए उन्होंने इस बात को कहा, उसके पीछे कोई भी लॉजिक नहीं है।
Right. Abhishek Tripathi, the Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister's reaction, of course, is one thing to talk about. But, what do you make of this demand to bring these Marathi-speaking areas in Karnataka, within the ambit of being a union territory at the moment? Is that a demand, according to you, that, that's going to be acceptable? How do you see this deadlock between the two states ending?
See, frankly speaking, so bringing Karnataka occupied Marathi speaking and cultural areas in Maharashtra will be the true tribute to those who accepted martyrdom in the boundary battle. It's not something which is very, very small. It's a big issue. It's been long pending. And living in Mumbai and Maharashtra, I understand, and I believe that everyone should be united over here to understand there shouldn't be any party politics happening, and understand that we should be committed towards this cause, that this should come in the Maharashtra area. And like Maharashtra CM has asked for the union territoryship, I think this is something which we will be seeing in coming days, how it shapes up in the court. But what we should aim is that the region should come in Maharashtra.
Right. Appreciate you both for joining us on these interesting developments. We'll keep a close watch on this story. We're going to slip into a short break. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Over 100 people have been injured and over 200 people have been arrested as retrenched teachers had gherawed Biplab Deb's residence after cops dismantled their 52-day peaceful agitation in a massive crackdown. 100 people, including police personnel, were hurt and 200 agitators, like I said, were arrested on Wednesday in Tripura's capital of Agartala when security forces launched an early morning crackdown at the tents where terminated teachers of the state government schools had been protesting for the last 52 days. Ratnadeep joins us with the very latest. Ratnadeep, what more can you tell us about this crackdown?
The district administration has already extended the Section 144 in state capital Agartala for 2 days. Last evening, in fact, the state government has said that the crackdown had taken place because they were protesting there for 52 days. But what remains unexplained is that for 52 days, these retrenched teachers who had lost their jobs after the Supreme Court found the recruitment process to be faulty, so they had lost their job last year. All this while they have been, they were protesting peacefully. So what led to the early morning crackdown was something which the state authorities are yet to explain. But yes, after the crackdown, what these teachers and their supporters, what they did is that they tried to, lay siege of the official residence of the chief minister. That's when police, had to resort to lathi charge. Even water cannons were used, tear gas shells were used. Now the teachers are saying that some of their, some of the members have sustained grievous injuries. However, the government says that there have been a lot of police personnel who have also received injuries. There have been stones pelted at the police personnel. So there was a complete pitch battle at the state capital yesterday, and that's exactly why the state government is taking no chances and has extended the Section 144 imposition in the state capital. Now, what has happened is that there have been a political war of word also between the ruling BJP-led government as well as the left, which was in power in that time period when these teachers were appointed. Remember that more than 10,000 teachers have lost their job due to the faulty recruitment system during the left-front regime. So the left also cannot wash its hands off. But it has alleged that yesterday they were, the teachers were dealt by the police very brutally. But the BJP says that it was not only the teachers but some of the left-front cadres were part of the crowd which tried to get closer to the CM's residence when the police acted. But perhaps what remains to be seen is that how the government addresses this issue, because the fact that the teachers were peacefully protesting for 52 days and then there was a police crackdown, there was a police use of force. So this is something that remains unexplained by the government as of now.
All right, Ratnadeep, appreciate you for joining us with the very latest. We'll keep a close watch on all those developments. Section 144, meanwhile, remember, has been imposed in Agartala. All right, let's now shift our focus. COVID-19 guidelines have further been relaxed in India. This as per the latest order that's been sent by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Health Ministry has also come out, in fact, and now said that swimming pools can be permitted for use. Cinema halls and theatres to operate at a higher seating capacity than what was previously permitted. No restriction on interstate or intrastate movement anymore. No permit is required for interstate or intrastate movement anymore. So the big story that is really emerging here is, of course, that movement has been facilitated more freely, and that swimming pools will now be allowed to open, and cinema halls will also be allowed to function at a higher seating capacity than what was previously permitted. Remember, this is coming in the backdrop of a decline in India's daily coronavirus cases. Let's just look at the numbers in Delhi, for instance. The cases are below 100 for the very first time since April. So this is a big development that's coming in. There are 96 and only 96 COVID-19 cases that have been reported in Delhi in the last 24 hours. So this is definitely encouraging numbers as far as Delhi is concerned, and encouraging numbers as far as India is concerned as well, because in the last 24 hours, India recorded just over 12,000 COVID-19 cases. And that, of course, is a remarkable feat as far as India is concerned as well, as the national recovery rate has now crossed 96.9% on Wednesday, according to the Health Ministry data. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, has said that the Indian economy may be the fastest growing in 2021. They say that India is likely to have the highest GDP growth among all nations this year.
Today was the worst losing streak in the markets since September last year. Markets ended in red for the fourth consecutive session, plunging nearly 2%. The Nifty fell below 14,000 mark for the first time this year. It shed 271 points to settle at 13,967, and the Sensex tanked by 937 points to end at 47,410. Among stocks, IndusInd Bank, Axis Bank dropped nearly 4%. HDFC Bank, HDFC, Reliance ended between 2.5 to 4% down. Among sectors, Nifty Bank lost nearly 3%. Experts say today's fall was due to profit booking ahead of the budget. Asian markets ended mixed today, while European markets are trading in red.
Getting very good results and still the stocks going down 3%. It just shows that markets were over exuberant, and then once the fact is coming, they're booking their profits and taking the money home. That's what's happening. So I would not read too much, at least for now.
The IMF on Tuesday forecast that India's GDP would grow at 11.5% and be the fastest growing economy for financial year 2022. But experts say markets have already factored in strong fundamentals like strong Q3 earnings and demand picking up.
IMF forecast for the Indian economy has not come as a major surprise for our market, because market had already sensed a broad-based revival and we've seen the run-up in the past few months. But in terms of the flows, definitely there is going to be a positive sentiment.
Even though the markets broke down today, the experts say that one need not worry, as this is the time for investors to buy at an attractive rates, because the markets are expected to remain volatile until the union budget. In Mumbai, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Well, no relief for the makers of Tandav, the actors as well as the officials at Amazon Prime Video. The judge has now come out and said that he can't hurt religious sentiments. The Supreme Court has rejected the plea to protect Tandav actors and filmmakers. This, of course, is the big development that we are in fact tracking. So no relief in sight there for the Tandav makers, or for that matter from Amazon Prime. The Supreme Court has said that they will not be granted protection from arrest.
A setback to the cast and crew of Amazon Prime's show Tandav. The top court refused to grant protection from arrest to those involved in making the serial. These include director Ali Abbas Zafar and producers Himanshu Mehra and Gaurav Solanki, actor Mohammad Zishan Ayyub and Aparna Purohit, creative head of Amazon Prime Video. Many FIRs in different states have been filed against the actors and producers of the serial and Amazon Prime Video for hurting religious sentiments. Lawyers for the petitioners argued Tandav makers had already apologized and questionable contents removed. Arnab Goswami case was similar and he got relief. Justice Shah said, in another case he did not get relief. It is right to freedom of speech and it cannot be curtailed. Justice Shah said, your freedom of speech and expression is not absolute. Actor Zishan Ayyub's lawyer said the views are on the character and not the actor, and it was a contract. Justice Shah questioned, you accepted the contract after reading the script. You cannot hurt religious sentiments. However, the court agreed to examine clubbing of all FIRs and shifting it to a Mumbai court, where most of the accused stay.
With the top court turning down the request for protection from arrest, the actor, serial makers can be arrested unless they get protection from the concerned courts in the states where FIRs have been filed. In New Delhi, Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, NDTV.
Well, on to the big story. We're tracking from Tamil Nadu. VK Shashikala has the sacked AIADMK General Secretary is out of jail, but not out of hospital. Even before her return to Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister EPS went ahead with the opening of a 79 crore rupee memorial for J. Jayalalitha, perhaps to emphasize that she has no place in the legacy of the former Chief Minister and the ruling AIADMK.
After spending 4 years in Bengaluru's central jail after her conviction on corruption charges and paying a fine of 10 crore rupees, Jayalalitha's confidant, VK Shashikala, has been formally released from prison. But she will not be leaving Bengaluru immediately. She still needs oxygen support and is being treated for COVID in hospital, where jail officials completed the formalities. Doctors say her health is stable.
4 officials from the prison and myself and other advocate and also the doctor's team, we all went to the 6th floor and where we met madam, and she is is very fine first.
From the day one, even from the previous hospital, they are giving her good treatment.
Shashikala's nephew Dinakaran won Jayalalitha's RK Nagar seat while she was in jail. But his party, the AMMK, drew a blank in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls, securing just around 5% of the votes. Although the AIADMK suffered a rout, the party leaders say they are united against the ousted Shashikala and they expect no major shift in loyalty in the upcoming state polls. The man she anointed as Chief Minister, E. Parinaswamy, who fell at her feet in gratitude or to show loyalty, has turned against her. He has in fact shut the door on her. He had even removed her from the AIADMK party post of General Secretary. At best, what Shashikala can hope for is to retain the hold she is said to have on some AIADMK leaders, including MLAs. She can then be the Tevar leader around whom those belonging to the caste can rally. The Deputy Chief Minister, OPS, himself a Tevar, has not proved too effective, and many feel the Gaundar caste of Chief Minister EPS has gained the upper hand in the AIADMK. Cracking down, on day one, the party expelled a functionary for posters projecting Shashikala as party chief.
As far as we are concerned, we are standing on our own legs.
Will she impact AIADMK's prospects in elections, sir?
AIADMK prospect is well assured by the public at large.
Though Shashikala belongs to the powerful Tevar community, a key vote bank for the ruling AIADMK, the upcoming election would be an acid test for this aide of Jayalalitha, who cannot contest for 6 years. Rattled, the ruling AIADMK puts up a brave face, at least for now. With Maya Sharma, Uma Sudhir and Suresh in Chennai, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
Well, now on to Assam, where a group of young human rights lawyers have started an initiative to bridge the disconnect between the constitution and the people, particularly in rural Assam. How is this panning out? Ratnadeep Chaudhary reports.
79-year-old Said Ali, a farmer from Kalgachia in Barpeta district, is a worried man. Has been since 1997, when he was declared a doubtful voter. Someone whose nationality is doubtful. Unable to vote, excluded from NRC, Ali is waiting for trial to begin at a foreigners tribunal, his only chance to prove he is an Indian citizen. But barely literate, he has no idea how to protect his rights.
তো সেই জন্য আমাদের খুব অসুবিধা হয়েছে। আমি যে ভারতের মানুষ, আমাদের যে সংবিধান আছে, সংবিধানে আমি কি পাইতে লাগে কি না পাইতে লাগে, এটা যে আমাদের মতো মানুষ যে বুঝানোর মতো মানুষ, এই মানুষটা আমি পাইতেছি না।
Finally, hope for many like Ali. A new Sangvidhan Kendra or Solution Center up and running in his area since Republic Day to provide legal aid on citizenship-related cases. 3 other such centers recently started in other parts of Assam. The paralegal volunteers educating rural people about the constitutional rights.
আমাক যদি ইয়াৰ পৰা বুজাই দিয়ে ভালে হ'ব তাৰমানে আমি এনেহেন তাৰমানে সুবিধা আগত পোৱা নাই তাৰমানে যে আমি এনে ডাঙৰ তাৰমানে সেই নেতাৰ ওচৰতে গৈছো তাৰমানে
Apart from providing legal assistance to the people, the Sangvidhan Kendras will organize regular Sangvidhan Sabhas like this one, where experts will come and speak to the people, explain them and create awareness about the constitution. Sangvidhan Kendras are the brainchild of a young team of human rights lawyers led by Aman Wadood. They are tying up with NGOs and independent trusts to set up these centers.
The preamble starts with we the people, but there is a huge disconnect between the constitutions and the people. So the idea is to take constitution to the people, to make them aware of what the constitution is, what the rights are. What happened in Assam, Indian citizens are randomly accused of being a foreigner or illegal migrant. You strip these people of their dignity. These rights is protected by the Constitution of India. That is exactly the idea that need to be instilled in the mind of people.
ये संविधान का प्रॉब्लम तो हर जगह है, क्योंकि हमारे संविधान अभी खतरा में है। लेकिन असम का बात थोड़ा सा अलग है। हिंदुस्तान में कहीं नहीं है, सिर्फ असम में डी वोटर का इशू है। असम में डाउटफुल वोटर है, ये संविधान के खिलाफ है और ये संविधान केंद्र कोशिश कर रहा है कैसे डी वोटर का समस्या को रिजॉल्व कीजिए.
Online sessions with country's top constitutional experts are already popular, kindling hope for many citizens who believe they have been wrongfully accused of being foreigners. In Kalgachia with camera person Sanjay Chakravarti, Ratndeep Chaudhary, Find It TV.
Well, in a massive crackdown last night, the Uttar Pradesh cops have broken up a farmer protest on the Bagpat highway. These are visuals that we are getting to you, which were recorded last night from western Uttar Pradesh is Bagpat area. Protesters in Bagpat were evicted overnight by the Uttar Pradesh police. They insist that action was taken at this protest site at the behest of a request from the National Highway Authority of India to facilitate roadworks that were blocked as a result of the protest. The Uttar Pradesh government has insisted that no force was used. These late-night visuals, however, show cops chasing away protesters. You can also see barricades that are being physically removed. Let's listen in to what the ADM of Bagpat had to say.
NHI ने हम लोगों को पत्र लिखा था, चूंकि NHI के कार्य में बाधा पहुंच रही थी, तो उन लोगों ने पत्र भेज करके रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि हमारे कार्य को पूरा कराया जाए। चूंकि इनका कार्य पूर्ण होने की स्थिति में है, तो उसको पूर्ण कराने के लिए हम लोग आए थे और बहुत शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से ये लोग अपना स्वतः ये लोग चले गए। हम लोग उनके जो सामान थे उनको रख लिया। ये हम लोग जब आए तो 4-5 वृद्ध लोग थे। एक उसमें से मतलब थोड़ा सा उसका वो दिमाग को मतलब कम था। उन लोगों को हम लोगों ने उनके घरों पे भिजवा दिया। किसी भी तरह का कोई भी बल प्रयोग नहीं हुआ।
Alok joins us with the very latest. Alok, late night action at the Bagpat highway. The protesting farmers were removed.
Well, yes, you're right, Rishika. As we continue to look at those visuals, this protest on Bagpat, at Bagpat in fact, which is a Western UP district not very far from Delhi, was on since the 19th of December. The farmers had been camping on one side of the highway, which is the National Highway 709B, I'm told, that connects Delhi to Saharanpur in Western UP and then onwards to Yamunotri. Yesterday night, in fact late night, this police contingent arrived there with JCB machines and with cops, and these policemen then chased away the farmers. The government says no force was used, but yes, there are certainly visuals of the policemen descending on the farmers late night when they were sleeping and literally chasing them away and asking them to move from the spot. That certainly has happened. I think, again, the larger point would be to now look at whether there is more coercive action that is taken against different farmer groups who are protesting at some spots in Western UP and then on the borders with Delhi. And that would be something that one would look out for in the next some time, given that this seems to have started now. This protest was going on since the 19th of December. It went on for close to 2 months unhindered. but perhaps the events of the 26th of January have now provided some fresh way for the government and the administration, at least in Uttar Pradesh, to act against the farmers. So that is what seems to have happened in Bagpat. What happens elsewhere at the moment, difficult to say. Is this a sign of things to come? I think it's a question.
All right, appreciate you, Alok, for joining us with the very latest. Those are pictures that have come in overnight from the Bagpat highway, where in a crackdown, the Uttar Pradesh police has cleared the protesting farmers, and they insist it has been done in order to facilitate road work that was being blocked, and the National Highway Authority of India, in fact, requested them to clear the area. The government on Wednesday denounced the unprecedented violence at the farmers' tractor rally. Union Minister Prakash Javadekar said India won't tolerate the manner in which the tricolour was insulted at the Red Fort. Mr. Javadekar also pointed a finger at Congress and Rahul Gandhi. The Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party, remember, have targeted the centre over the violence.
जिस तरह से लाल किले पर तिरंगे का अपमान हुआ, वो अपमान हिंदुस्तान सहन नहीं करेगा। कांग्रेस ने लगातार उकसाने का काम किया किसानों के आंदोलन में। पंजाब में उनकी सरकार है, पंजाब से निकलने वाले ट्रैक्टरों पर निगरानी करके जो हैबिचुअल क्रिमिनल्स है उनको प्रिवेंटिव अरेस्ट करनी चाहिए थी। यह अहिंसक मार्च नहीं था, लेकिन कांग्रेस उसको अहिंसक बता रही है। कल दिल्ली पुलिस ने अद्भुत संयम दिखाया। उनके पास शस्त्र थे, लेकिन उन्होंने चलाए नहीं। ये निश्चित रूप से पुलिस की एक प्रशंसनीय काम है।
भाजपा के एजेंट, केंद्र सरकार, मोदी की सरकार की सेंट्रल एजेंसियों के एजेंट, स्लीपर सेल में जो काम करते हैं भाजपा के, वो इस आंदोलन में इन्फिल्ट्रेट कर चुके थे, घुस चुके थे, और उन लोगों ने इस पूरी वारदात को अंजाम दिया है।
Just look at the background of Deep Sidhu. Here is someone who was Mr. Deol's, BJP's candidate's right-hand man. Here is someone who's been photographed with the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, inside 7 RCR. Here is someone who has photographs with Mr. Amit Shah. Here is someone who 4 months ago was boycotted and pushed out by farmers' unions because of his separatist leanings.
An FIR has now been filed against Deep Sidhu for violence at the Red Fort on Republic Day. According to the Delhi police, Sidhu and Lakha Sidhana instigated the protesters into the Red Fort. Deep Sidhu will be summoned for questioning soon. The Delhi police has said no one involved in the violence will be spared. Delhi police on Wednesday also issued a notice to farmer leader Darshan Pal over the violence during the farmers' tractor rally on Republic Day, asking why legal action should not be taken against him. Noting that the vandalism at the Red Fort on Republic Day was the most deplorable and anti-national act, the police asked Darshan Pal to submit his response within 3 days. The action comes after the Delhi Police Commissioner S.N. Srivastava alleged that farmer leaders were involved in the January 26 violence and warned that no one will be spared. Arvind joins us with the very latest. Arvind, we're seeing an FIR there being filed against Deep Sidhu, also a notice being sent to farmer leaders. What's really the latest as far as the Delhi police investigation into the violence is concerned?
Rishika, the Delhi police has registered over 25 FIRs in connection with the violence that happened on Republic Day connected to the farmers' tractor march, and they have already arrested somewhere around 19 people in this particular case. So what's happening now is that the agency has issued a notice to one of the organizers of Samyukt Kisan Morcha, that is Darshan Pal Singh. So a notice has been sent to him asking him to give details about the names of the perpetrators of the violence on Republic Day. So he has been given 3 days time to respond to the notice, whereby Darshan Pal Singh has to give the names of the people who indulged in violence, maybe from his organization also, and other people who involved in this particular violence. So he has to give his response in written within 3 days, and the police has also asked him why legal action should not be taken against him and other members of his organization for indulging in violence. So a strong order notice has been issued to Darshan Pal Singh, whereby he has been asked to respond within 3 days. In fact, what the Delhi police has in that notice has stated is that there was an agreement that was signed between the Delhi police and also this farmers union leaders, stating that the march will start somewhere around 12 noon and end around 5 o'clock, and only 5,000 tractors will be taking part in the tractor rally. And also 3 designated routes have been decided in the meeting. But all these 3 very important agreements have not been met by the farmers union, and that's why the agency has issued notice to the farmers union leaders also, asking for their response. And what we are being told is that the legal action will be taken against the farmers leaders also. This is in connection with the farmers leaders. Coming to Deep Sidhu, where the farmers union have alleged that it is Deep Sidhu along with 3 other elements, they indulged in violence. They misled that they instigated the protesters into the Red Fort. So based on that particular allegation, the farmers union wanted an action against Deep Sidhu, etc. So what we are hearing from our sources is that the Delhi police has already registered an FIR against actor Deep Sidhu for violence at Red Fort on Republic Day. Not just Deep Sidhu, the agency has also booked Lakha Sidana along with Sidhu in connection with the alleged violence that happened at Red Fort. So what we are being told is that Deep Sidhu will be summoned soon for questioning, and the agency and the Delhi police senior officials have made it clear no one involved in the violence will be spared, and all the videos that have been recorded by the Delhi police personnel involving the violence will be looked into. Facial recognition tools will be used to identify these culprits, and they will be acted against soon.
All right, Arvind, appreciate you for joining us with that comprehensive update. The Delhi police has issued a notice to Darshan Pal Singh, the organizer of the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, provide names of perpetrators of the violence on Republic Day. This is what Delhi police has in fact told Darshan Pal Singh, asking him, of course, why legal action shouldn't be taken. Remember, 25 FIRs have been filed so far, and around 19 people, we are told, have in fact been arrested. This, of course, after the chaos that ensued in the national capital. Now, farmer leader VM Singh of the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee has said that we can't carry forward this protest with someone whose direction is something else. So I wish them the best, but VM Singh and the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee are withdrawing from this protest and withdrawing right away. Farmer leaders have alleged that there is a conspiracy to undermine the protest. A section of the farm leaders have blamed Punjabi actor and activist Deep Sidhu for instigating the clashes at the Red Fort. The Sanyukt Kisan Morcha held a meeting at the Singhu border yesterday afternoon, during which they reiterated the conspiracy angle and distanced themselves from the violence. One farmer, remembered, died on the way to the Red Fort. The post-mortem was conducted in Rampur, and the police have said that this was in fact a death due to accident and not due to shooting. Over 300 police personnel, meanwhile, have been injured in the violence, and 22 cases, like I said, have been registered. 6 farm leaders are among those who have been named in these cases. All right, joining us on the broadcast, we have Avik Saha, the national convener of the Jai Kisan Andolan. We also have Ved Bhushan, an ex-ACP from the Delhi police. Thank you both very much for joining us. Avik Saha, I want to ask you, there has been a reiteration once again at yesterday's meeting on this entire conspiracy angle. Meanwhile, there's also been an acknowledgement that as far as this movement is concerned, it is a divided house. There are leaders who wanted to disassociate themselves with not just the violence but the movement altogether and have decided to walk out.
Those who have walked out of the movement were peripheral to the movement. If you are referring to VM Singh and PKU Bhanu, then that's my comment on that. All the leaders of this movement, the collective body, Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, condemn this violence, stand against this violence, and will do everything in their power to make sure that the farmer movement proceeds peacefully. Because peace has been and will be our strength. We have reached this far only on the basis of peace. And we will not allow this movement, which is so critical for the future of the farmers, to be sabotaged by violence, by arson, by simple indiscipline. So we will not damage our own movement. We are very clear on that. And we will continue to be peaceful. This is the position of the collective body of farmers, the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha.
Okay. Before I get Mr. Ved Bhushan to respond to some of what you said, Avik Saha, quick comment. Don't you in a certain sense feel that a lot of damage has already been done? The scenes that the capital saw on the 26th of January have undermined in a certain sense the movement, have damaged the larger purpose behind the movement?
Oh yes, damage has been done. What needs to be now found out is who did this damage, why this damage was done, and why this damage was done to destroy the farmers' movement, at least to destabilize it. We are trying to restabilize the movement because this movement was never about unfurling any flag, disturbing official programs. If you go through all the public statements made by all the responsible farmer leaders of Sanयुkt Kisan Morcha, we were very clear on this. So we also need to find out, as much as the police, why this is being done to the movement.
All right. Mr. Ved Bhushan, do you want to respond to some of what has been said? Because, there appeared to be some kind of an agreement or a decided plan of action. Clearly, that plan of action was not what we saw unfold on the 26th of January. Instead, what one saw, was violence, there was arson, there was vandalism. And in a certain sense, it did also appear that the police were caught off guard.
Rishika, I will say one Hindi proverb. अब पछताए क्या होत जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत.
Right. Mr. Bhushan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I think we lost that line with you. We lost that line with you. Go ahead.
Yes, I will tell two Hindi proverb. अब पछताए क्या होत जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत. दूसरा है सब कुछ लुटा के होश में आए तो क्या हुआ. I want to tell you, Rishika, किसान आंदोलन हिंदुस्तान में अभी is a very senior leader और बहुत समझदार मैच्योर पर्सन है. दिल्ली के अंदर जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस रहा, दिल्ली पुलिस का एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, नॉट ए सिंगल किसान आंदोलन पीसफुल रहा है. सबकी जो लास्ट एंडिंग है वो अरेस्ट, डिटेंशन, मुकदमा, कोर्ट केस, कचहरी के बाद हुई है. एक एग्जाम्पल यदि मिस्टर अबीक मुझे बता दें कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदर कभी किसान आंदोलन पीसफुल तरीके से समाप्त हो गया हो.
नहीं तो आप व्हाट इज द पॉइंट मिस्टर वेद भूषण, आप क्या पॉइंट प्रूव करना चाह रहे हैं?
माय पॉइंट इज दैट कि जो भी किसान ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं इनके अंडर में कंट्रोल में नहीं था. जो कुछ मीटिंग्स हुई थी, all was it was a failure, utter failure.
You're saying you're saying that it was a failure. You're saying that it was a failure. You're not entirely wrong, given what we saw happen in the national capital. But what do you make of the argument that is now being put forth by Avik Saha, by several other farmers as well as their leaders, who say that this was a deliberate conspiracy to sabotage the movement? What do you make of that argument?
Now they are shifting, they are leaving their stand, दूसरे के कंधे पर डाल रहे हैं, पुलिस को कोस रहे हैं, दूसरों को गाली दे रहे हैं. अपना जो इनका अपना घर था वो इनसे संभाला नहीं गया. अब पुलिस के ऊपर, सरकार के ऊपर, दिल्ली के ऊपर गालियां देने से कोई फायदा नहीं है. हम लोग बहुत स्टैंड किया. पुलिस shown exceptional restraint in all the matter. If you see 400 policemen got injuries, serious injuries. If you go on Red Fort, आप अभी जो दिखा रहे थे, जैसे पेड़ से पत्ते टूटते हैं, इस तरह से पुलिस वालों की लिंचिंग हुई है. It was technically a lynching of policemen. I am exactly using the word lynching of policemen by the Kisan, so-called Kisan. They were not Kisans. They were criminals. They were traitors. I am using very harsh word.
But which is actually, Mr. Bhushan, I know that you tend to disagree with Avik Saha, but in a certain sense, you're also reiterating what he's saying, that these were not Kisans, they were indeed criminals. Last word to you, Avik Saha, do you believe that this conspiracy angle is going to, in a certain sense, be able to turn the narrative in your favor once again? What was largely, touted to be a historic protest has been deeply discredited. A lot of damage has been done after the violence. Do you believe that the conspiracy angle is something that will cut ice?
I'll come to that, but just to reply to Bhushanji, farmers' movement and peace with it. 10th August 2017 Jantar Mantar, I organized that protest, completely peaceful.
I was ACP there. I was ACP there, Mr. Saha. If you remember, I met you there.
We have
I don't want to argue with you. I was there.
सर मुझे मालूम है, मुझे याद है 20th November 2017, 28th 29th November 2018 ये सारे भूषण जी थे, मैं था, कौन सी गड़बड़ हुई वो समझा दे.
Right, Avik Saha, I'm afraid I'm completely out of time, so I'm going to have to give you 10 seconds to wrap your point.
Yeah, the point is that this conspiracy is something that has to be unearthed. All I'm appealing for is common sense. Why would farmers' movements destroy and damage themselves? That question must be answered. Why would we harm ourselves?
Well, interesting. That's an interesting question, and that's food for thought. We leave it at there. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. But an interesting point to leave it at. You know, why would the farmers want to damage their own cause or discredit their own movement? We leave it at that for now. Thank you both very much for joining us. We're going to slip into a very short break. A lot more coming up on Good Morning India. Stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. The Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, the umbrella under which around 32 farmer unions came together to protest against the 3 farm laws, has distanced themselves from the violence on the roads of the national capital on Republic Day, blaming the Punjab artist Deep Sidhu and the Kisan Mazdoor Sangharsh Committee for the violence, calling it to be a deep-rooted conspiracy to knock down the peaceful farmer struggle. But what really are the facts? Here's the full story.
Who is to blame for a largely peaceful movement spiraling into violence? If the farm organizers are to be believed, it's these 2 men, Deep Sidhu, an actor who became one of the many celebrities endorsing the farmer protests, and Satnam Singh Pannu, leader of one of the many unions combating the farm laws. Pannu, the organizers said, deviated from the plan and broke through police barricades to enter central Delhi. Pannu admitted to NDTV that he did break through barriers, but that's because the farm organizers diluted the route of the yatra.
गैर समाज के तत्व हैं, वो सरकार की साजिश है. दीप सिद्धू सरकार का आदमी है. सरकार का आदमी हो सकता है, उसकी इंक्वायरी होनी चाहिए. उसके साथ साਡਾ कोई लिंक नहीं, कोई संबंध नहीं.
Pannu, however, claims he was not responsible for the violence at the Red Fort. For that, he too blames Sidhu. Sidhu himself was seen on his Facebook Live, streaming the hoisting of the flag at Red Fort.
जो आज हुआ है वो कोई आज एक आइसोलेशन में या आज की घटना नहीं है, ये एक लंबा प्रोसेस था, उसकी कंटिन्यूएशन है.
Since then, Sidhu has not been seen either at Singhu or Tikri border, nor has he come out in public to respond to the allegations against him. Sidhu's presence at Red Fort has stoked the conspiracy theory of a BJP hand in the riots. Sidhu was campaign manager for film star and BJP MP Sunny Deol in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. The BJP has denied any such link. Police have named Yogendra Yadav, Darshan Pal, Kulwant Singh Sandhu and 34 others.
दीप सिद्धू की पूरे समय लाल किले में मौजूदगी, इस उपद्रव में मौजूदगी किसान आंदोलन को बदनाम करने की एक सुनियोजित साजिश है.
When asked, the police said,
मैंने जब ये आपको बताया है कि हर एक कोई व्यक्ति जिन्होंने इसमें इस जघन्य अपराध में हिस्सा लिया है उसके खिलाफ कानूनी कार्रवाई की जाएगी और अभी केसेस रजिस्टर हुए हैं. केस के इन्वेस्टिगेशन में कई नाम आएंगे और जिनका भी नाम आएगा उनके खिलाफ जो कठोर कदम हमने ठान ली है वो ली.
Even if Pannu or Sidhu had a role to play, it's unclear if either could have triggered the chaos at the Red Fort. Questions remain over why the police couldn't prevent such a large-scale assault on a highly protected monument. Questions also remain over why the main organizers did not intervene much earlier when they sensed that the protest is going off tracks. With camera person Xavier, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
Well, with that, we're slipping into a short break. But coming up on the other side, well, the former Indian captain Sourav Ganguly is likely to undergo another heart procedure today. We'll bring you all the details on the other side of a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. India's cricket board BCCI chief and former India captain Sourav Ganguly is likely to undergo another angioplasty after he was admitted to a hospital following complaints of chest pain. In a statement, the Apollo Hospitals has said that his vital parameters are stable. He had earlier undergone an angioplasty, and a renowned cardiac surgeon is in fact flying to Kolkata to check on him today. Joining us with the very latest, Saurabh Gupta. Saurabh, what more can you tell us about Sourav Ganguly's health condition? This is the second time that he'll be undergoing a heart procedure in the last couple of days.
Yes, actually, in fact, this is the second hospitalization for Sourav Ganguly in a month, and what we've been given to understand is that Dr. Devi Shetty, the renowned cardiac surgeon, is going to be also flying into the city to look at him, to examine him, and to advise him on what medical, treatment, what procedures he needs to undergo to ensure that this problem goes away. Now, obviously, for his legions of fans, this is, of course, a worry, and Sourav Ganguly is someone who's loved a lot, and that's why, obviously, many people have expressed apprehension. In fact, a lot of people went to the hospital again last evening. And Sourav Ganguly seems to be doing fine at this point. His vital parameters are stable. Remember, there's been a lot of speculation over him joining politics. He has said, don't speculate. But with this health condition, many say that, well, will he be able to actually join politics at a stage like this? That's also something that's been talked about. So obviously, this is something that, Sourav Ganguly is worried about, at least, because obviously this is the condition that he needs to take care of first, and that's something that many are saying needs to be looked at first. His health, for his legions of fans, is the primary concern. Dr. Devi Shetty flying in today. He's also likely to undergo another angioplasty, but all decisions on his treatment will be taken after all the tests are complete, and the team of doctors looking after him arrive at a final decision. But an angioplasty, we are being given to understand, is likely.
All right. Well, we will continue to keep a close watch on those developments. Appreciate you, Saurabh, for joining us for the very latest. Now, moving on, today is the second day of Rahul Gandhi in his parliamentary constituency, Wayanad in Kerala. This comes even as the assembly elections in the state are expected towards the middle of 2021. And his visit also marks the beginning, in a certain sense, of the campaign, as he's been speaking at various UDF assembly conventions. Sneha joins us with the very latest. Sneha, what more can you tell us about Rahul Gandhi's visit?
Well, in fact, even today, if you look at it, he has at least 2 UDF conventions, assembly level conventions, where he will be speaking. So this, of course, also marking how perhaps the campaigns have begun in a way. At least party workers, leaders are being addressing. He's been meeting the leaders also. All of this in his parliamentary constituency, Wayanad. The assembly elections are expected shortly from now. We don't really know when exactly, but there's a recommendation given by the State Election Commission by the Election Commission for somewhere around mid-April. That, of course, is being closely watched. Now, in a series of addresses he did yesterday, ranging from inaugurations as well as assembly level addresses, he did speak critiquing the left government in Kerala, which is the ruling front, as well as the Prime Minister himself and the BJP. He's also given out messages to the party leaders that this time the candidature or those who have been selected to stand or contest for the assembly elections needs to be based on their age. They need to be young, from various expertise in various sections of the society, and the manner of election selection must be transparent. He has gone ahead and said he will actively campaign in various parts of Kerala if these things are kept in mind. It's of course coming as a challenge. Local body elections recently that was seen in Kerala saw the left sweep the elections. Rahul Gandhi saying that UDF needs to sweep the coming elections. It's definitely going to be a challenge. A lot also at stake recently, with managing senior committee which has been set up with the former Chief Minister Oman Chandi heading it. So a lot of deliberations there, and of course Rahul Gandhi returning to his constituency for 2 days, today being the second day. As I mentioned, a lot of meetings at the assembly level as well as inaugurations and various MP-led schemes, etc., even as the elections are expected shortly.
All right, Sneha, appreciate you for joining us with that update. We'll keep coming back to you for more developments as we track Rahul Gandhi's Wayanad visit. Let's now shift our focus from Kerala, however, to Tamil Nadu, where the Chief Minister would open the memorial for the late Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha at her Poise Garden residence in Chennai today. Sam Daniel reports on the latest. Sam, the Madras High Court has directed the government to not let public inside till the petition that's been filed by Jayalalitha's legal heirs sees some kind of, a conclusion. The state government, however, has already acquired this property. What really is going on?
That's right, Rishika. Earlier, the Tamil Nadu government had promulgated an ordinance to take over the Poise Garden residence of Jayalalitha to build a memorial for her. That has been challenged by her legal heirs, her nephew Deepak and niece Deepa. In fact, we come here from outside the Poise Garden residence of Jayalalitha. And yesterday, the court has clearly directed the Tamil Nadu government that they can have the inauguration conducted. They can only open the main entrance to Jayalalitha's residence, but they cannot open the house inside. And more importantly, no public shall be allowed after the function. And the court has said the administration ought to hand over the keys of the Jayalalitha's Poise Garden residence to the collector after this, because the inventory is still pending, and that's exactly why. In fact, yesterday the government had inaugurated the memorial built at the place where Jayalalitha was buried along the marina. Several thousand people had gathered, but after the court ruling today, although the government had expected large number of people, very few people have gathered here, and at 10:30 the Chief Minister is expected to inaugurate that. It's not very clear whether he would still go inside the house or not. Politically speaking, this is all being done in a rush, particularly coinciding with the release of Jayalalitha's friend, ousted and jailed Sasikala, who was released from the Bengaluru jail after serving a 4-year jail term in the disproportionate assets case in which Jayalalitha was the prime accused. And today this is being done. Politically, the ruling AIADMK is trying to project these two as a major achievement to motivate the party cadre, hoping that the elections which are due in May, this will help them to garner more votes and also to strengthen the performance of the EPS government as they hope. All
right. So clearly the AIADMK has its strategy laid out, Sam, ahead of these elections. Yesterday we saw EPS inaugurate that 79 crore memorial at Marina. Today we will in fact be seeing him inaugurate her Poise Garden residence memorial. This, remember, has still not been cleared by the Madras High Court. So one isn't sure whether he's actually going to physically enter or not. We'll keep coming back to you, Sam, for more updates on all of these developments. Let's now shift our focus to the other big story that we're tracking this morning. Over 100 people have been injured and 200 arrested as retrenched teachers ghirawed Biplab Dev's residence after cops dismantled their 52-day peaceful agitation. Now, 100 people, including police personnel, were hurt, and 200 agitators, like I said, were arrested on Wednesday in Tripura's capital of Agartala, when security forces launching an early morning crackdown at the tents of terminated teachers of the state governments took place. Remember, they have been sitting in protest for the last 52 days, and those tents were, of course, dismantled. The police had to use force when the agitating SAC teachers, in fact, tried to gherav the Chief Minister's official residence. So, high drama has been taking place. Ratnadeep has been reporting on these developments. Ratnadeep, what more can you tell us?
That's right. In fact, high drama on the streets of Agartala yesterday with hundreds of protesters actually blockading the entrance of the Chief Minister's residence, many of them carrying the national flag as well. But this morning, the situation is under control. That's what we are learning from the police sources. In fact, the state government has actually, extended the imposition of Section 144 in state capital Agartala. But remember, this is a major development, given the fact that these teachers, SAC teachers, have been protesting rather peacefully for more than 50 days, and yesterday it was the 52nd day. But on the Republic Day evening, they had carried out a candlelight vigil and also had threatened for aggressive protest. Now, yesterday morning, in a surprising move, rather, the state government actually imposed Section 144 in the state capital, and then there was a crackdown at the place where the teachers were protesting. Now, we did speak to some senior police official, and they said that there were intelligence input that the protesting teachers will turn their protest aggressive. In fact, they pointed out to Facebook post of some of their leaders, which the police claims were rather provocative. But what happened is that after this, the tents were dismantled, hundreds of people they actually gathered in front of the Chief Minister's residence, and there was a pitched battle between the protesters and the police. In fact, the police claims that more than 17 of their personnel are also injured in the stone pelting which took place. The protesters claim that they were beaten up very in a barbaric manner. Now, these people have lost their job. More than 10,000 people have lost their jobs last year after Supreme Court actually gave a verdict saying that their the recruitment process was illegal. Remember, they were recruited between 2010 to 2014 when the left was in power. Right. And however, in 2018, in the run-up to the assembly polls in Tripura, the BJP used it as a poll plan. They also promised to solve their problem, but it seems that after coming to power, retrenched teachers are claiming that the government tried to side away from their promise. However, the government claims that they had actually increased the age limit to government job to make way for these teachers, but there were deadlock between the government and the protesters, and it's now the government had to use force to dismantle their protest.
All right, Ratnadeep, appreciate you for joining us. Meanwhile, COVID-19 guidelines have further been relaxed in India. The Health Ministry is now allowed for swimming pools to be reopened and to be permitted for use by all. Cinema halls, theatres can also operate at a higher seating capacity than what was previously permitted. There will be no more restrictions on interstate or intrastate movement. No permits will be required for intra or interstate movements. Well, as far as Delhi is concerned, the cases have fallen below the 100 mark for the first time since April. Delhi has reported 96 COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. Well, moving on, Geeta Gopinath has spoken with NDTV on the distress in the rural economy.
You are saying that India's GDP is going to grow by 11.5% in 2021, which is the highest of any country, higher than China, which is 8%. And this is despite the fact that you projected minus 8% for India in 2020. Explain that. Explain how, in your analysis, India is miraculously doing so well.
Say hi, it's a pleasure to join your show. I think for all countries, Srinivas, the important thing is to combine the numbers for 2020 and 2021. So part of the reason why the growth numbers are very large for 2021 is because there was a very severe contraction estimated for the previous year, so of an 8% contraction. So as a comparison with China, China is projected to grow 2.3% in 2020 and then another 8%. So cumulatively, that is over, 11% growth in China over 2 years, as opposed to like 3% or something for India. So I think you always have to combine the numbers together. But again, indeed, it is an upgrade. And the reason for the upgrade are a couple of things. One is after India opened up from one of the strictest lockdowns in the world, you saw activity coming back much faster than expected. And secondly, and this is important, while in other countries, when you opened up, you actually also saw another wave or resurgence of the virus. In the case of India, on the other hand, you're seeing a very sharp decline in the number of active cases, as it appears that many more countries are many more people are actually have the antibodies in their system. So I think this is a very important factor for it.
Okay, so let me just take up that first point where you mentioned that one of the reasons why India might be doing so well is also because of what economists call the low base effect, that because you were coming off that -8%, that's one of the reasons why it's now 11%, because overall, if you look at it as you pointed out, if you compare it factoring in the low base effect, then India's GDP growth rate is actually just 2.6% over 2019, which is in fact much less than China. China is actually growing at about 10% compared to 2019.
So we have an upgrade for India, so this is certainly better than what we had projected in October. Sure. But indeed, I think if you want to put the numbers in perspective, you really do want to accumulate over the 2 years.
Okay. Okay, that's fair enough, because often what tends to happen is people go for the headlines and they don't actually do the decoding of the numbers, and that can be a little bit misleading. But overall, you are talking about an upgrade, because as you mentioned that India is opening up, and also fingers crossed we're doing better with the virus. But I do want to ask you though, Geeta Gopinath, because there is the number of the upgrade, there is the kind of positive signal that it sends, but there's also the ground reality of what is happening in India, where we are beginning to see the economy turn around, but those numbers conceal quite a lot of distress, especially to small businesses and especially to the informal economy.
Yeah, so a couple of points I will make. First is that, again, when you look at an eye-popping number like 11.5%, you should also keep in mind where India would have been in the absence of this pandemic. So if you, for instance, look at 2022 overall, and you look at where India is expected to be now relative to what it would have been, there is still a 9% gap. So there is, even in terms of the overall average GDP numbers, there is still a gap to close, even if India is doing better than what we expected in October. And secondly, indeed, what you said is correct, which is these numbers don't reveal the distress that you are seeing in the informal sector, what you're seeing with poorer households. And again, with medium, small enterprises, you know, it's hard to get this information. Even when you come to employment, there isn't, you know, official data on at high enough frequency to see what's actually happening with employment. So, you know, there is a lot of distress that continues. And again, just to keep in mind where India would have been relative to where it is now.